Hey, a new TF2 update.
The Valve broke the game. They nerfed everything. Oh my god, the TF2 devs don't care. TF2 is gonna die.
Shh, no, calm down.
Alright, first of all, hold up, TF2's been dead for a while and Valve's still updating it and we're still playing it. Second of all, they didn't nerf everything, okay? I'll have you know, they buffed the man treads in this update, so everything's fine. But yeah, anyways, this isn't actually even an update, this is just a little blog post that the TF2 devs made, where they're asking for some community feedback on some balance changes that they're looking to push here, which is really, really good, I think. And it's something that I've always thought was a good idea for Valve to do ever since around the Tough Break update. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to the balance changes. Alright, so first up here we got the panic attack, and they say that it is actually one of their least used weapons, which is kind of sad to me because I actually really like this weapon on engineer, but it's pretty understandable how it's not very used on most of the other classes, because for all the classes except for engineer, pretty much all their primaries completely outweigh whatever their secondary is. Not only that, but most of the other classes only really use their shotgun when they're in a tight situation where they really need to pull it out and instantly do damage, and if you pull out the panic attack then you're not going to be able to instantly do that damage, so I think it's pretty good that they're adding that plus 50% faster switch speed. I know they already do have a faster switch speed, but I can't remember if it's exactly 50% or not. 50% more pellets and 30% less damage. I'm not sure if that would do more damage or not. I don't really want to do the math right now, but I'm going to go with that's going to do less than the normal shotgun damage because it would be kind of overpowered if you had a shotgun that was firing super fast and did more damage than stock, so yeah. And then also fires a wide fixed shot pattern, so oh sweet, okay, that's actually pretty good. It doesn't have shotgun spread. I honestly really hate shotgun spread in pubs, and I'm not sure if they have it in competitive mode or not. I don't think they do, thankfully. But even in pubs, I don't really like shotgun spread because, you know, they turned off damage spread a long time ago, but shotgun spread is still there, and that can really throw off your damage consistency. Alright, so next up for the spy. Basically, for the ambassador, they made it so you are not perfectly accurate with it anymore. And I guess that makes kind of sense because it's pretty annoying to have a spy sniping you all the way from across the map with the ambassador, and you can't really do anything about it unless you're another spy with the ambassador, or a sniper. But then again, you know, speaking of snipers, that's pretty much all one of the class does in the game. So I'm not really sure why that would be particularly annoying enough to remove that accuracy from Spy. What I think would be a better change for the Ambassador though, to make it less annoying from long range, is make it so the critical hits it does on headshots have damage fall off. And then for the Dead Ringer, basically they made it so you can't instantly refill it every 2 seconds, so that's also pretty good. Honestly, I've never really actually had a problem with playing against the Dead Ringer. I know a lot of people always get like super annoyed how spammable it is, but every single time I kill a Spy and he uses the Dead Ringer, I don't try to chase after him or anything. I, you know, just like let him go away, and I just keep him in the back of my head, and then I turn around every once in a while. Most of the time I get him, but apparently some people have a problem with, like, maybe they're chasing after the Spy with the Dead Ringer or something like that, and the Spy can just like keep on getting away from them forever because he can just keep on refilling that Dead Ringer cloak like really quickly from ammo kits and dispensers. Well, maybe not dispensers if they're chasing them, but still. And then the Your Eternal Reward. This is by far the worst weapon for Spy in competitive, because if you cannot disguise as Spy, then you're pretty much instantly going to die, unless you manage to cloak behind them and sneak up really well. But even then, if you do manage to get a backstab and get a disguise, you're going to get called out instantly, and everyone on the whole enemy team is going to know who you are, and you're basically not fooling anyone. So it's really good that they're kind of upgrading this ability and making it so you can disguise as any of the players you've killed, and not only be disguised as the one that you've killed most recently. And then the increased cloak drain rate by 50%, I'm not really sure that's necessary, because you're still going to be needing to rely on your cloak a lot as Spy, even if you have that much disguise power. Now onto the Scout with the Sandman. Basically they made it so you can still shoot people now, even when you're stunned by this thing. That is awesome. That is by far the best change for Scout they have on this list. Like, even coming from a Scout who used to use this thing all the time back when he was a casual player, like, just being able to make it so an enemy cannot engage in a fight by only sacrificing 15 health and maybe like less than a second just to pull out the thing before you get in a fight, that is just like way too overpowered. Alright, and then Bonk Atomic Punch. For this, they made it so whenever you're using this thing, it counts up how much damage you're absorbing, and then based on how much damage you absorbed at the end of your bonk phase, you are going to have a speed penalty. The more damage you took while you were in that bonk phase, you get slowed down more apparently, and the less damage you took, obviously, you have less of a speed penalty. And honestly, I think this is pretty good because that means that you can't just like walk in and then take 1,000 plus damage and just walk out on the other side behind the enemy without any penalty. So you actually do have to kind of try to dodge, and you do have to have a high skill degree in movement, even though you're not taking any damage. But at the same time, it does kind of punish you for like absorbing damage for your teammates, like maybe for a sentry gun or something like that. But when it comes to absorbing damage from your teammates will probably be able to protect you when they're pushing up behind you after the bonk phase. Pretty Boy's pocket pistol. They made it into a good Blutsauger now. Woo! Or they are going to at least. Hopefully. I don't know. I like these changes either way. Instead of it having a slower firing speed now, they're planning on making it have a faster firing speed. Not only that, but they're making it so you get 7 HP for every hit you get with it. And then it only has a minus 25% clip size, which is 9 shots. And no damage vulnerability while out. That is awesome. This may become one of the new meta pistols in competitive, especially for flank scouts, because it will make it so scouts don't have to be anywhere near as dependent upon heals anymore from medics or health kits or anything like that. All they have to do is shoot people with a pistol now, and since it fires faster and it gives you 7 HP per hit, that will probably do very, very well. But I think they should also probably add a damage penalty to it at the same time along with the clip size, otherwise it may be able to be used just as well as a normal pistol for cleaning people up after a few scattergun shots. But yeah, either way, make the Pretty Boy's pocket pistol great again. Alright, and then for the critical, the most stereotypical overpowered weapon for scout there is. So basically they're taking away the move speed bonus, and they also remove the marked for death thing after the critical expires. But what they did add in was each attack while active adds marked for death debuff for 5 seconds does not stack. I think what that means is once you drink the critical, immediately there's no downside, but once you hit someone with it and do a mini crit to them, then you take extra damage. Overall, for the critical, I'm actually surprised that these are really good changes in my opinion, because it makes it so scouts aren't impossible to hit anymore because they got rid of the speed bonus. And not only that, but it sort of encourages flanking more, which was the original use that the critical was made for. Because if you just run in and you start shooting someone while they notice you, then they're gonna start shooting you back, and even though you have that damage bonus, they're gonna have even more of a damage bonus against you after they just hit you a single time. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how the critical is gonna be able to play out competitive now. Alright, and then for the atomizer. The atomizer was originally supposed to be used for flanking behind the enemy, getting into places that scout normally wasn't meant to go into, but people have mostly just been using the atomizer as sort of an in-combat way to dodge all explosive damage that normally would have gotten them if they use it correctly. And I think making it so the triple jump has to happen while you have the bat out is actually a pretty clever way to make it be used the way it was intended to be. And now for the flying guillotine. So they made it that you can't do crits or mini crits anymore, but they made it so if you hit someone at long range, then it will recharge faster, which I actually think was the original problem for why it was banned in competitive a long time ago before the global whitelist, was because it could just recharge so quickly that you just had this super easily spammable projectile for the scout that actually did a lot of damage over time. So I don't think Valve needs to get rid of the crit or mini crit mechanics, but I do think they need to make it so it recharges a little bit slower. Alright, the base jumper. So I know a lot of casual players are going to be extremely confused on why the base jumper was nerfed. And that is probably because most people they see using the base jumper are not using it correctly. They just probably don't know how to use it. And the people who do know how to use it don't use it. But if someone does know how to use it and they do choose to use it, it can be extremely hard to hit them. If they know how to strafe, and if they keep on deploying and redeploying their parachute over and over again, they can be practically unhittable while in the air, despite them moving extremely slowly through the air. So I think that's actually a really neat idea to make it so you can't strafe as hard anymore, and to make it so you can only activate it once in the air. The man treads, they got a buff! Yes! Yes! Alright, low-key, I'm actually pretty excited about this. I still don't think these changes are good enough to make them as good as the shotgun or the gunboats, but hey, it's a start. So basically they made it so the push force reduction now includes air blast, since this is going to be in the Pyro update, but I don't know. I guess that technically is a push force reduction and it should be included in there. 200% more air control, so I think a lot of people, a couple of my friends were sort of confused on what this meant when they were reading it, but what I think it means is when you're strafing, you can strafe way sharper now. Like sometimes when you're trying to strafe, if you just flick your mouse too hard and you're going at a super fast rate, then it will just stop all your momentum. But I think this will make it so if you flick your mouse, then you'll actually just be able to continue strafing, as long as you're not going too fast. So yeah, Mantred's buff. Woo woo, hype. Even more hype, Darwin's Danger Shield, it got nerfed really badly. It's like useless now. So yeah, it's not used for sniper 1v1s anymore. That is no longer its main purpose, thank God, but unfortunately, for some reason, the main purpose of it now is to counter pyros, another sort of nerf to pyros in the pyro update. I don't really understand why, but hey, I don't know. They're probably going to have a lot of buffs to pyro when they reveal the changes that they were planning to do to pyro for the community. Yeah, basically Darwin's Danger Shield, not really that useful anymore, especially since it's pretty powerful against pyro, since sniper is a long range class and pyro is a short range class, so yeah. Alright, now the Razorback. So basically the changes to the Razorback made it so pocket snipers aren't as effective anymore, supposedly. And what they did to make that less effective was remove overheal from sniper completely while he's wearing it and made it so the shield regenerates after 30 seconds. I'm not really sure why that's there. But hey, I guess it makes it a little more useful now, since not a lot of snipers that I know use it in the first place, unless they are a pocket sniper, of course. But I don't think the overheal penalty is the right way to do it. I think the right thing to do to make pocket snipers less effective is make it so when they're in a certain range of teammates, I think probably a relatively close range, they should make it so sniper takes 50% more damage when he has this thing on. That way the sniper sorta has to isolate himself from everyone to be effective, but that way he can still be immune to spy backstab, so it's kind of a weird trade-off. Alright, now onto the medic. So, the Vitasaw. It's basically a worse version of the Ubersaw now. Well, kinda. It's sort of an escape version of the Ubersaw, where as medic, if you're being chased out somewhere and you know you're going to die, you might as well just take this thing out and try to hit people as many times as you can with it, so that when you die, you can get a head start on your Uber charge. But then again, at the same time, when there's the Ubersaw, why not just use that when you can get your Uber charge instantly, rather than having to wait until you die to get only a fraction as much. Either way, I still think the Vitasaw with these changes still could be really useful, even though I made it sound pretty bad, because most of the times medics have to use their Ubersaws are when they're being chased and they don't have any teammates around and they're most likely going to die anyways. So these may actually be pretty effective changes. Alright, so now for the Crusader's Crossbow. This got like a tiny little itty bitty nerf, but it could eradicate one of the best building strategies in competitive Team Fortress 2, which is arrow building. As I say here, arrow building is the fastest way to build Uber charge for medic, and apparently Valve doesn't really like that strategy, so what they did is they made it so healing people with the arrow now includes the crit heal mechanic. So if someone just got hurt, you won't gain as much Uber charge from it, but I think it still makes it so you will heal them just as much. And if that's the only nerf the crossbow got, unfortunately I still think it is going to be way better than all the other syringe guns. But honestly, to make the other syringe guns more used, I don't think the Crusader's Crossbow really needs a nerf. I think the syringe guns need a buff of some sort. Like, make it so all the syringe guns heal teammates when you hit them. You know, just a little idea I had. I'm not sure if it would actually be good, but something that would definitely make them more used. Alright, and the Fat Man himself. For all miniguns now, they made it so the damage and accuracy penalty now applies to the first second of spin-up time, whether or not Heavy is firing. Alright, you know, that's not really that big of a change, especially since Heavy is mostly a close range class, so he'll still be killing people pretty quickly. But at the same time, this small little change could be pretty effective for making Heavy a little bit more of a skill-based class. Gloves of Running Urgently. I love this change. This is an awesome change. Basically, the Gloves of Running Urgently in the state they're in now are probably by far the best melee for Heavy, because Heavy's never really used their melees, so why not use a melee that actually has a use, which is getting to mid faster? But they made it so it still has the same use, but it actually has a really bad downside, which is minus 10 health every second you have it out. But thankfully it regens while it's holstered. I don't exactly know how fast it regens, but hey, it's still a pretty good change regardless. The reason that's so bad is because even with the Gloves of Running Urgently, Heavy still won't be the fastest class to mid compared to like Demo or Soldier or Scout. So if someone manages to get to the Heavy very, very early in the mid, he might be extremely weak and he may be able to get an easy pick on him. But at the same time, if no one manages to do that, then the Heavy can still have a normal mid. But it might make it harder for the medic to do rollout heals on everyone, because as soon as everyone gets to mid, the medic will not only have to heal the Demo and both of the Soldiers, but if they have a Heavy, then he will also need to heal that Heavy, unless the regeneration health is extremely fast. Alright, Eviction Noticed. Right now, the Eviction Noticed is used as pretty much a slightly worse version of the Gloves of Running Urgently, so they're applying the same changes to it. I don't really think this is the best idea, because I think they wanted, at first, for the Evictions Notice to be a melee that is actually used to damage people as Heavy, but now they gave it a minus 5 health a second penalty while active. So, even though this thing is already pretty weak at meleeing people, that'll make melee fights way worse for Heavy, since he'll be losing 5 health a second. But at least they got rid of the 20% damage vulnerability. I think just removing the 20% damage vulnerability will be good enough, and then it might become a slightly less unviable melee for Heavy. Fist of Steel. So Val believed that the increased melee damage doesn't ever really come into play for Heavy when he has the Fist of Steel, which I definitely agree with, except in pubs. But yeah, in competitive, no one really uses their melees to actually damage people the majority of the time, unless they're a spy. So they made it harder on medics to heal heavies who have the Fist of Steel out, which I think is actually a pretty good nerf, because now the Fist of Steel actually has a somewhat competitively viable downside to it. And this may or may not encourage other melees to be used. Alright, the Rescue Ranger. I know a lot of people aren't really liking this one, but I actually somewhat think it's fair because the Rescue Ranger is definitely the meta primary for Engineer right now. Because not having to use metal to heal your sentry is, as they say here, an extremely powerful thing. So making it cost only 15 metal per shot to heal your sentry is a pretty good nerf, even though it's not really that bad. Because that way it does make it a little bit harder to keep your sentry gun alive in pretty much every scenario with this thing. So now you kinda need a dispenser or some sort of ammo source to keep your sentry gun alive while you're healing it. So now you can't just be running around everywhere shooting it from any place you like and it can stay alive. So that's pretty good. Alright, remember, I know a lot of people have been saying, like, oh, they forgot to do demo, they haven't done pyro yet, oh my gosh. Or just remember they said here, they haven't finished the list yet. So they're most likely going to be coming out with another one of these. So when they do, I'll be sure to have a video out on it as soon as I can. And yeah, in the meantime, share your opinions about these changes below in the trash can in the comments section. This has been ChaseDuck. Chips away, dudes.
You dick lord.
What happened there? What?
Wait a minute. Did you just like air shot yourself?
Oh, I know what I did. Shoot. Okay. Hold on.
Air shot yourself,
Okay.
didn't you?
Truce. Yeah. Truce for an explanation of what I think happened.